Yesterday we went through a few suttas, and tonight we come to sutta number 22.95 in the Kanda Sangyutta. On a certain occasion, the Exalted One was staying at Ayodhya on the bank of the river Ganges. Then the Exalted One thus addressed the monks, just as if monks, this river Ganges should carry down a huge lump of foam, and a keen-sighted man should see it, observe it, and look close into its nature. So seeing it, observing it, and looking close into its nature, he would find it empty, he would find it unsubstantial, he would find it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a lump of foam? Even so, monks, whatsoever body, be it past, future or present, far or near, etc., which a monk sees, observes, and looks close into its nature, he so seeing, observing, and looking close into the nature of it, would find it empty, he would find it unsubstantial, he would find it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a body? I'll just stop here for a moment to comment. Here the Buddha is using the simile of a lump of foam to a body. I think I might have mentioned it yesterday. A huge lump of foam floating down the river. It's just like when you wash your clothes using fat and you stir the fat water. What happens? A lot of foam is formed. And so the huge lump of foam in the river is just like this. And it consists of bubbles, and bubbles form and bubbles burst. And the Buddha says that the body is just like this. It is made up of cells, millions and millions of cells. And cells form and cells die. And new cells form and new cells die. And every 7 years, all the cells in your body totally change every 7 years. So, the body is very similar to a lump of foam, a huge lump of foam. These cells are changing all the time. So, there is no core in our body, just these cells changing all the time. And the Buddha continues, suppose monks, in autumn time, when the sky god rains down big drops, a bubble rises on the water and straightway bursts, and a keen-sighted man should see it, observe it, look close into its nature. So seeing it, observing it, and looking close into its nature, he would find it empty, he would find it unsubstantial, he would find it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a bubble on the water? Even so, monks, whatsoever feeling, be it past, future or present, be it far or near, a monk sees, he finds it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in feeling? So I stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha is using the simile of rain falling on water, for example, falling on a pond or a lake. And when the raindrops fall on the pond or on the lake, bubbles are formed. Each drop that falls on the surface of the pond creates a bubble. And the bubble forms only for a short while, and then it bursts. So in the same way, the Buddha says, our feelings form, arise, and they pass away. So our feelings are like the bubble that are formed by the raindrops on the water. It lasts only for a short while, and it ceases. So the sutta continues, just as if monks, in the last month of the dry season, at high noontide, there should be a mirage, and a keen-sighted man should see it, observe it, and look close into the nature of it. So observing it, he would find it to be without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a mirage? So it is likewise with any perception. I'll stop here for a moment. So perception is likened to a mirage. It has no substance. Just for example, a man dying of thirst and hunger in the desert, hasn't eaten for many days, hasn't drank for several days, and he's walking about, he's getting delirious from the heat, and he imagines he sees a mirage, or he sees a mirage and he imagines he sees an oasis, and he walks nearer and nearer, and when he arrives, he finds there is no oasis, it was just a mirage, something created by the mind. So in the same way, when we have a perception, it is similar to that. For example, a perception that someone is a very nice person, or a perception that someone is a repulsive person, it is all subjective. You may find a certain person repulsive, but he may be very nice to another person. Or you may find a certain person very attractive, but he may be repulsive to another person. So it is all very subjective. There is not much basis. There is no real essence in your perception. And the Buddha continues, again, monks, suppose a man should roam about in need of hardwood, searching for hardwood, looking for hardwood, and taking a sharp axe should enter a forest. There he sees a mighty plantain trunk or banana plant, straight up, new grown, of towering height. He cuts it down at the root. Having cut it down at the root, he chops it off at the top. Having done so, he peels off the outer skin. When he peels off the outer skin, he finds no pith inside, much less does he find hard wood. Then suppose a keen-sighted man sees it, observes it, looks into the nature of it. So seeing and observing it, he would find it to be without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a plantain trunk? Even so, monks, whatsoever volition there be, past, future or present, far or near, a monk sees, he finds them without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in volition? I'll just stop here for a while. So here, volition or willpower is compared to a banana tree. When you cut a banana tree and you peel the layers, you find inside no pith, nothing substantial, nothing hard. So in the same way, the Buddha says when volition is exercised, when a decision is made, we imagine there is a person inside that makes a decision, but the Buddha says there is no such person. Again, monks, suppose a conjurer or a conjurer's apprentice should spread a magic show on the high road, and a keen-sighted man should see it, observe it, look close into the nature of it. So seeing, he would find it empty, he would find it unsubstantial, he would find it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in a magic show? Even so, monks, whatsoever consciousness, be it past, future or present, far or near, a monk sees, observes, look close into the nature of it. So seeing, he would find it empty, he would find it unsubstantial, he would find it without essence. What essence, monks, could there be in consciousness? So here the Buddha is saying that consciousness is like a magic show. We see ourselves now as a human being. Another lifetime we see ourselves perhaps as a deva or a devi. And then another lifetime we may see ourselves as a ghost. Another lifetime we may see ourselves as an animal. So it is just consciousness conjuring up this show, this kind of dream. When we are in a dream, it's very hard to know that we are in a dream. We are caught up in the dream. For example, I'm sure all of you sometimes you awake we wake up and we remember a nightmare we just had, and you remember when you were dreaming during that nightmare, you were frightened and you didn't know it was a dream. Only after you woke up, then you realized that it was a dream and there was nothing really to be excited about. So similarly, when we are living in this world, to us it's so real. And according to the Buddha's teaching, one day when we wake up and become enlightened, then we realize it was just a dream, just like a magic show. And the Buddha continues, so seeing monks, the well-taught Aryan disciple feels wearied at body, at feeling, at perception, at volition, at consciousness. Feeling wearied, he becomes dispassionate. Being dispassionate, he is set free. By that release, the knowledge comes to him. For life in these conditions, there is no hereafter. So that's the end of the sutta. So this last part, the Buddha says, if you understand the real nature of the 5 aggregates, then you become wearied or disenchanted, and no more enchanted, attracted by the 5 aggregates. You become dispassionate and you release, you let go of your attachments, and then from that you attain liberation. And the next sutta is 22.59. At Benares, in the Deer Park, at one time the Exalted One addressed the group of 5 monks. Body, monks, is not the self. If body, monks, were the self, then body would not be involved in sickness, and one could say of body, let my body be thus, let my body not be thus. But monks, inasmuch as body is not the self, that is why body is involved in sickness, and one cannot say of body, let my body be thus, let my body not be thus. Feeling is not the self. If feeling, monks, were the self, then feeling would not be involved in sickness, and one could say of feeling, let my feeling be thus, let my feeling not be thus. Likewise with perception, volition, consciousness, they are not the self, and you cannot say, let my perception, volition or consciousness be thus, let them not be thus. I just stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha is saying that the 5 aggregates are not really you, and not really yours. If the 5 aggregates are you or yours, then you should be able to have control of the 5 aggregates. For example, when we are young, we want to grow old. We want to grow up very fast. And even though you want to grow up very fast, you can't grow up faster than the natural pace. And one day you've grown up and you're very happy. But after that, you start growing old. And when you start growing old, you think you want to stop the aging process. You would like the aging process to stop. But even then, you have no control over it. And especially after 40, when you start to age quite fast, there is no way you can apply the brakes. This is why the Buddha says, you have no control over, for example, let my body not be sick, but you have no control at all. Similarly, in the Bible of the Christians, Jesus Christ told them that you cannot even add 1 cubit to your body's height. You cannot make your body grow taller by, I think a cubit is something like a 4 arms length. And so, the body is not yours, it is not you. Similarly with feelings, we discriminate between pleasurable feelings and unpleasant feelings. When you have unpleasant feelings, you want them to end immediately. Otherwise, you feel a lot of grief, you feel a lot of sorrow, and you don't like it, you want it to end immediately. But when you have pleasurable feeling, you want to prolong it. And you want to prolong it, for example, by taking drugs, going to all sorts of ways to prolong your pleasurable feelings. But the body can't take it. And if you try to prolong it too much, you might blow your mind, as they say. Even though we try to control these things, these 5 aggregates, there is no way we can control them. They react according to conditions, causes and conditions. Now the Buddha continues. What do you think, monks? Is body permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. And what is impermanent? Is that pleasurable or painful? Painful, Lord. Then what is impermanent, painful, unstable by nature? Is it fitting to regard it thus? This is mine, this am I, this is myself. Surely not, Lord. So also is it with feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. Therefore, monks, every body, whatever, be it past, future or present, be it internal or external, gross or subtle, low or high, far or near, every body should be thus regarded as it really is by right insight. This is not mine, this am not I, this is not myself. Every feeling, every perception, every volition, every consciousness must be so regarded. So seeing monks, the well-taught Aryan disciple feels wearied with body, feels wearied with feeling, with perception, with volition, with consciousness. So feeling wearied, he becomes dispassionate. Being dispassionate, he becomes freed. Knowledge arises that in the freed is the freed, so that he knows destroyed is rebirth, lived is the holy life, done is my task, for life in these conditions there is no hereafter. Thus spoke the Exalted One, and the group of 5 monks were pleased thereat, and welcomed what was said by the Exalted One. Moreover, by this teaching thus uttered, the hearts of those 5 monks were freed from the asavas without grasping. That's the end of the sutta. This sutta is called the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, and was spoken by the Buddha to his first disciples, the group of 5 monks. And after speaking this discourse, all of them attained arahanthood. And so the Buddha is saying, the 5 aggregates, body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, which is basically also body and mind, is impermanent. And because it is impermanent, it is painful. And what is painful and impermanent, unstable by nature, it is not fitting to regard it as this is I, this is mine, this is myself. And when a person realizes this, then he becomes disenchanted, or wearied with the 5 aggregates. And following that, he becomes dispassionate. He lets go of the attachment for the 5 aggregates, and he becomes liberated. Now, if we take what is impermanent, painful, unstable by nature, to be I, to be mine, to be myself, then we are taking up a burden of the 5 aggregates, a burden of the 5 khandhas, and this is a burden of suffering. It is only when we let go of these 5 aggregates, we don't take it up as a burden, as I, mine and myself, that we let go of this burden of suffering, then we can be released. There is another sutta that discusses this 5 aggregates as a burden. How to see that the body and the mind is not I, not mine and myself, is to practice contemplation of the body and the mind, to see that the body and the mind depends on conditions, that the body arises because of food, because of the union of mother and father, and later of food, and it subsists on food, and is very dependent on food. And the mind, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness depends on contact. And when there is contact with the 6 sense doors, 6 sense objects, then the mind starts to work. And when we understand the nature of the body and the mind, then we become wearied, disenchanted, and following that, we let go of the five aggregates and become free. The next sutta, 22.33. The Buddha said, "What is not of you, or what is not yours, monks, put it away. Putting it away will be for your profit and welfare. And what, monks, is not of you? Body, monks, is not of you. Put it away. Putting it away will be for your profit and welfare. Feeling is not of you. Perception, volition, consciousness is not of you. Put it away. Putting it away will be for your profit and welfare. Just as if, monks, a man should gather, burn, or do what he please with all the grass, all the sticks, branches and stalks in this Jeta grove. Pray, would you say, this man is gathering us, burning us, doing what he please with us? Surely not, Lord. Why so? Because, Lord, this is not ourself, nor of the nature of self. Even so, monks, body is not of you. Put it away. Putting it away will be for your profit and welfare. Feeling is not of you. Perception, volition are not of you, nor consciousness. Put it away. Putting it away will be for your profit and welfare." That's the end of the sutta. This is quite an interesting sutta. Here the Buddha is saying that the five aggregates, body and mind, is not yours. It is not of you. Just like if a man were to gather together all the grass, sticks, branches, and burn it, you wouldn't say that this man is gathering us, burning us, doing what he please with us. So similarly with the body and mind, it has nothing to do with us, the Buddha is saying. This is quite a deep meaning here, saying that the body and the mind, which we take to be the self, here the Buddha is saying is not you. It's not even of you. It's not anything to do with you. That is why earlier we read that the five aggregates are alien. Alien meaning like external to you. And what is you? In one of the suttas in the Digha Nikaya, the Buddha says that the Tathagata, this designates the Tathagata, Dhamma body, Dhammakaya, Brahma kaya, Brahma body, Dhamma Bhutta, Dhamma become, Brahma Bhutta, Brahma become. So, the Buddha is also saying that also is our nature inside us. The Dhamma body or the Brahma body. And this is quite interesting because it sounds a little bit similar to the Hindu teachings. And there is a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya. But when I say Hindu teachings, I mean the recent Hindu teachings, because the Hindu teachings were very much affected by the Buddha's teachings. Before the Buddha was enlightened in India, the Hindu teachings were not quite similar to the Buddhist teachings. But after the Buddha was enlightened, then you find that the Buddha's teachings affected the Hindu teachings to the extent that the new Hindu teachings after the advent of the Buddha were very close, very similar to the Buddhist teachings. Things like the Advaita Vedanta. Now in the Anguttara Nikaya 6.38, there is an interesting sutta. A man came to see the Buddha and he said, he has this view. He says, there is no, he told the Buddha, he said, I have this view that there is no attakara, there is no parakara. Atta is self, kara is a doer. He says there is no self-doer or self-agent. There is no other doer, no other agent. It sounds as though he's saying there is no self, there is no other. And the Buddha told him, I've never heard this before. And the Buddha asked him, can you step forward? And he said, yes, I can step forward. And the Buddha asked him, can you step backward? And he said, yes, I can step backward. And the Buddha said, if you can step forward and you can step backward, how come you say there's no self-doer, no other doer? And the Buddha said, do you have initiative to do this and to do that? And he said, yes. And the Buddha said, if you have initiative to do this and to do that, how can you say there is no self-doer, no other doer? So this is quite an interesting sutta. So from this, perhaps the word anatta might be more accurate, more accurately translated as not self, not self. Because the Buddha is saying things like the body and the mind is external, alien, is not of you. So these some of these suttas, the meaning is quite deep, and sometimes when we try to see the meaning of it, sometimes it's quite risky, and sometimes we can get into arguments. So it is best that we don't say too much, and we think about what the Buddha has taught, and we contemplate on it, and we come to our own conclusion. Because the Buddha, in one of the suttas we read yesterday, I think we didn't read yesterday, but there's another sutta where the Venerable Sariputta said that concerning the ultimate state, he said, don't say that something exists and don't say that nothing exists. If you say that something exists or nothing exists, then you create difficulty where there should be none. Sometimes some of these more deep things we have to practice, and we come to our own conclusion. If we start giving our opinion, sometimes there we come into arguments with others. But anyway, concerning this, the best guidance we have for all this is the Buddha's words, the Buddha's words in the suttas. Whatever any monk says, we should always compare them with the Buddha's words, because in the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said, if any monk says that such and such is the teaching of the Buddha, then the Buddha says, don't reject it, also don't accept it. Without rejecting it, without accepting it, you compare what he says to be the Buddha's words with the suttas and the Vinaya. And if you find that it agrees with the suttas and the Vinaya, then you can accept his words as the Buddha's teachings. But if it contradicts the suttas and the Vinaya, then you should not accept it, you should reject it. So that is the basis for which we judge whether such and such is the Buddha's teachings. We compare it with the suttas and the Vinaya. Now the next sutta is 22.93. The Buddha said, suppose a stream mounts a mountain torrent, down drawing, rising from afar, swift flowing, and on both its banks are growing grasses which overhang the stream. Kusa grass there might be that overhangs, reeds and creepers and overhanging shrubs. And a man is swept away by that stream, and clutches at the grasses, but they might break away, and owing to that he might come by his destruction. He might clutch at the kusa grass, at the reeds, at the creepers, he might clutch at the shrubs, but they might break away, and owing to that he might come by his destruction. Even so, monks, the untaught, ordinary folk, regard the body as the self, or the body as belonging to self, or the body as being in the self, or the self as being in the body. Then body breaks away, and owing to that, they come by their destruction. So too with feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. And these break away, owing to that, they come by their destruction. Now as to that, what do you think, monks? Is body permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. So also feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, are they permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. Wherefore, monks, he who sees thus knows, for life in these conditions there is no hereafter. That's the end of the sutta. This is another very beautiful simile. Just as a man is swept away by a stream or a river, a strong flowing river, and he clutches at the grass and the creepers, but these break away and he is swept to his death. Even so, we are swept away by the current of life. The current of life sweeps us from one life to another to another. And as long as we clutch to the body, we clutch to the body and we clutch to the mind as I, as mine, as myself. But the body and the mind is impermanent, unstable by nature. And because they are unstable by nature, they change, they break, they are not stable. So even if we cling to that, it's no use. It will come to be destroyed. And so we are swept away by the current of life. And we turn and turn in the round of rebirths because we are holding on to our body and to our mind. It's only when we let go of our body and our mind and we hold to something which is not impermanent, something which is not unstable by nature. Now what is that? That is what the Buddha calls the uncreated, the unconditioned, the unborn. So it is only if we realize this nature inside us that there is salvation from being swept away by the current of life.